there would probably be no campaign at all if I had not even gotten on the debates. That's when we started getting the attention. But the internet has been fantastic. So that means we have to continue to use the tools that we have. It's word of mouth. It's the internet. It's using radio. It's writing letters. It's voting. They can't ignore us if we do a good job here. But you're right. It's frustrating, and others get a lot of attention, a lot of free publicity because of it.
Congressman, I noticed that you touched briefly on immigration, and I'd like to point out that I'm still undecided on who I am going to vote for. So based on that, I would really like to hear a little bit more on your stand on immigration. I live in Nevada, and we have a lot of problems in this state when it comes to this issue. Our governor has just cut 4 to 5% out of our budget to run this state. Our schools are fluctuated over 50% with illegal immigration. The illegal immigrants do not pay to come to this school and become educated. We do as American citizens. It's a tax burden upon us. Why is not the government holding Mexican government accountable for their people by, number one, stop and take their money away that we give them? Two, why does not the government give the states the empowerment to arrest the illegal aliens and deport them and hold Mexico accountable? Number three, in this community alone, we are a community of less than 100,000 people between Carson City and Gardnerville, 15 miles to the south. In the last 2 weeks, there has been over $1.2 million worth of illegal narcotics seized in this town from illegal Mexicans bringing their poison to our country and feeding them to our kids. What are you going to do about that? Besides stiffening our borders, what are we going to do about the 15 to 20 million of them that are here now?
Let them answer.
Good statement. Well, the first thing we have to do, of course, we did mention the borders. The borders, we should have border guards, once again. But I've looked at this a lot on what you said from an economic terms, because if you subsidize something, you get more of it. So the states have federal requirements, by the courts to provide free medical care and free education. I think they're wrong. There should be no mandates whatsoever. Some people say, well, you should be reimbursed for that. I don't believe that's the answer. There should be no mandates. If there is promise of amnesty, and then if they bring their family, they get free medical care, free education, they get food stamps, get Social Security benefits, then that's all wrong. I want to eliminate all that. No subsidies whatsoever. I have a bill in Congress to make sure the 14th Amendment is clarified, and I've done it both ways to cover my bases, and that is one legislation, one a constitutional amendment, to eliminate this idea that all you have to do is step across the border and have a baby and become an automatic citizen. In Texas, I've delivered a lot of babies there, and I've been involved, and I do know that they immediately go on to welfare rolls, and then that ties the parents to the United States, and they get to save. But we've had, and it sounds like there's an economic burden here as well, but in Texas, hospitals had to close. So here are these mandates, humanitarian mandates to take care of people. At the same time, we end up being inhumane to our own people because they can't go. You're taxed more, and the people have to, eventually lose their hospitals, and that is happening. So it's a mess, and it's compounded because the economy is weak. It's much more of a burden now because people are starting to hurt economically because of our economic system, and then this elicits a great deal of resentment, rightfully so, because people can't pay their own bills, but they see somebody in front of the line paying their food with food stamps, and it just has to stop. But and I think enforcing the law, this whole idea in Houston, somebody came to me, a policeman came, and he told me that the thing that they fill out when they catch a criminal, catch somebody breaking the law, and the one that says, what's your nationality, where you came from, they're not even allowed to ask that. They're prohibited from asking it. that has to change. It has to be from top down, because I don't believe the leadership in Washington, Republican or Democrat, care about what your concerns are, because they don't care that much about borders, because they're more interested in the North American Union, and we have to stop the North American Union.
Love the idea. Can you hear me?
Louder.
A little louder.
A little louder. Okay, I have this actually. If you eliminate federal income tax, how would your sales tax economy work? And would that drive prices up, or what would your plan be for that?
Oh, I'm not thinking about having a sales tax. I want to just get rid of enough government where you don't need the income tax. But you're right. If you go to what they call the fair tax, and that would be the sales tax, I mean, just think of an establishment like this. You come in here and you get tacked on another 30% or whatever to get enough money for the government. I mean, it's going to hurt. I mean, what about buying an automobile or a house? Everything would have a 30% plus tax, and it wouldn't work. The problem is spending, and that's why I haven't joined those programs of a flat tax or a fair tax, because it's spending is the problem. And I said where I think you can cut first, and that is overseas, not 10 or 20 million or billion, but hundreds of billions of dollars. If we didn't have an income tax today, you would have the same amount of revenue as we had 10 years ago. As far as I'm concerned, the government was way too big 10 years ago. So, yeah, we'll do that. I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going outside and say hello to a lot of people. Okay, let's go. Lady over here. Oh, on Yucca Mountain? Yeah, very simply. You know, the first vote or two that we had on Yucca Mountain, there were always 3 votes in opposition to dumping nuclear garbage in Nevada. The 2 Nevada congressmen and myself. And the reason was rather simple. First, the federal government shouldn't be involved in that. That should be a private function, and people should be dealing with waste. The second thing is why should 49 states gang up on one state and dictate? So I thought it was wrong to do it.
Mr. President.
Okay, what I'm going to do is step outside and say hello to as many people as I can.
I have one question regarding
Mr. President.
Okay, if it's a quick one.
Social Security hasn't been touched on your program yet.
Well, I touched it indirectly, and that is, there's no money there. If we're going to take care of the recipients, you have to cut. I would cut from overseas, take care of everybody who's dependent, and then cut so much that the young people can opt out. Right now, at the rate you're going, it's going to run out because you cannot keep up. Inflation is 10% and you're getting a 2% raise. Your standard of living is going down in these current circumstances. And the weaker the dollar, the worse that problem is going to get. So unless they do something like what I'm talking about, Social Security in 10 years, I believe is going to be wiped out. Thank you.